Maybe it's a parent, a grandparent, a friend, a sister, brother. How many people feel conflicted when that happens? Raise of hands, let me see. How many people are okay with that? Writing a tribute to Shosho. Shosho used to cook for us. Uji used to enjoy it very much. But you see people doing this actively, right? Okay, let's go back to now some serious doctrines. How many of us are familiar with the concept of saints? Yes, could you give us the meaning of saints in the in our contemporary period today?
So, in our contemporary, the meaning of saints, okay, not the biblical one, but now the one the general world knows. Saints are people who died, but for some reasons, they like passed through a certain purification, and now they are in heaven. So they are the one who, when you pray, they kind of mediate for you, and also they pray for you. So something of the sort.
Thank you. There is an error in the world today that certain heroes of faith who died in times past are now in heaven, able to receive our prayers and intercede, right? And so the reason why we need to understand the true state of death, the true state of those who have died, is because unless we believe that the dead do not know anything and they have no emotions, then we'll fall into the trap of being convinced to speak to them, right? And what happens when you speak to them? Can someone read for us Deuteronomy 18 verses 10 and 11?
Deuteronomy 10, 11. And the Lord said to me, arise, go on your journey, and the head of the people...
Sorry, Deuteronomy 18 verses 10 and 11.
Okay. 18 verses 10. There shall not be found among you anyone who burns his son or his daughter as an offering, anyone who practices divination or tells fortunes or interprets omens, or a sorcerer, or a charmer, or a medium, or a necromancer, or one who inquires of the dead.
Thank you. Who can tell us the meaning of the words necromancer, divination, and medium? Who has an idea of what those words mean? Yes.
Medium is a go-between.
A go-between. Between who and who?
A go-between two worlds.
Uh-huh.
The world of the living and the world of the dead.
Okay, thank you. So a medium explains it's someone who purports to be, and I'm using the word purports, who purports to be a go-between the world of the living and the dead. A necromancer. Anyone? Yes?
Okay, from the contemporary understanding, you're told that you're speaking to the dead, but in reality, you cannot speak to the dead, you're actually speaking to demons.
Thank you. But in the meaning of the word as used today, a necromancer is someone who is purports again to speak to the dead, right? What about divination? Yes? Okay, thank you so much. Can we read the book of Revelation, chapter 16, verses 13 and 14? Let's find why this topic is very relevant to today.
Revelation 16.
Verses 13 and 14.
13. And I saw coming out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, 3 unclean spirits like frogs, For they are demonic spirits performing signs, who go abroad to the kings of the whole world to assemble them for battle on the great day of God the Almighty.
So we found other translations with use the word devils, others demons, who perform signs. Other translations with use the word miracles. So we find there are demons which we are contending against who have the power to perform miracles. I think we're all familiar with a verse in one of the letters of Paul where it says the devil is able to clothe himself as an angel of light, right? So we find we live in a world where we are wrestling against principalities and powers in heavenly places who have the powers to make signs and miracles happen in front of us. Let's find a case study for this in the book of Samuel, chapter 1 Samuel 28. Let's begin with verse 8 and then we'll proceed. I'll actually open that one.
1 Samuel
Yes, 1 Samuel, start with verse 8.
chapter 8.
1 Samuel, chapter 28, starting with verse 8. Yes, please read.
Sorry. And Saul disguised himself and put on other raiment, and he went, and 2 men with him, and they came to the woman by night, and he said, I pray thee, divine unto me by the familiar spirit, and bring me him up, whom I shall name unto thee.
Thank you. The context of this verse, as we do our study, is that Samuel had died. And now Saul was left without an advisor, without a connection with heaven, and he needed to know what to do. And so in verse 7, you'll find Saul is asking for remember we talked about necromancer and a medium. So Saul is chasing after necromancer. Thank you. And so when Saul is seeking after a necromancer, he wants to speak to Samuel. Can someone read for us verse 11 of the same book, 1 Samuel 28, verse 11?
Then the woman said, Whom shall I bring up for you? He said, Bring up Samuel for me.
So, at this point in time, Samuel is dead. Samuel is dead. If you go up in verse 3, read for us verse 3, just so that we can confirm.
Verse 3. Now Samuel had died.
Thank you. Just let's just stick to that part. Samuel was dead. But in verse 11, Saul is speaking to this witch, and he's saying, when I ask you to bring someone, bring that person to me. And so go on and verse 13.
Verse 13. The king said to her.
Actually, read 12 and 13 together.
12. When the woman saw Samuel, she cried out with a loud voice. And the woman said to Saul, Why have you deceived me, you, Saul? The king said to her, Do not be afraid. What do you see? And the woman said to Saul, I see a God coming up out of the earth.
Can anyone talk to me and tell me what is the woman referencing there when she sees, my translation says, I saw gods ascending out of the earth. Anyone? Chacha? Any idea? Remember Revelation 16? So who is this that the woman is dealing with? It's right there clearly for us, right? And yet, go on with verse 14.
Verse 14, he said to her, What is his appearance? And she said, An old man is coming up, and he is wrapped in a robe. And Saul knew that it was Samuel, and he bowed with his face to the ground and paid homage. Then Samuel said to Saul.
Thank you. Let's just first deal with 14. So we find, again, Saul asks, which form, which anakan, and which form is this this God that is rising out of the earth? And then my translation says, Saul perceived, which means he was convinced that this was Saul. But by reading, but our study of the Bible tells us what? The living know that they shall die and the dead know not. So would Samuel speak? We've given an example of David. When Peter is giving the sermon, as Rock was explaining, he says that Peter is with us, even his grave is, for David has not ascended into heaven. So we find a confused state where people would go after demons, seeking to speak to them, assuming that they are dead. And the only result from that would be deception. And that is why in Deuteronomy 18, 11 and 12, we found that God had prohibited anybody from dealing with mediums, diviners, necromancers, and any such type people who would pretend to connect them with the spirit world. Because what it does, it creates a situation where we are ready for deception. We are ready to be lied to. And let me tell you, brothers and sisters, especially during these last days, we'll find a lot of trouble. So let's speak about some people in the Bible that we speak about and find out where they are. Yes.
Sorry, before we speak about that, I want to ask something in accordance to the line we just talked about. Saul is perceiving that whoever is coming up from the earth is Samuel. My question is it our perception that makes these things happen? Is it because we are told that he perceived and that he saw that it was Saul? Is it our perception towards believing in them, or is it something natural?
Good question. So Paul used his own eyes, and his own eyes told him that this was Samuel. So the question is, should we believe our own eyes, or what should be our basis for truth? Anyone with an answer? Anyone with an answer? Yes?
I don't have an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Please read your version of 1 Samuel 28, verse 15.
15.
Yeah, it's referring that figure now. And Samuel said to Saul, from my version.
Go on.
So I think I will go read on my own the whole paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to know why the Bible is referring to that ghost as Samuel. In verse 15.
Oh, thank you so much. So, as we began, Paul has perceived this spirit to be Samuel, right? And so, from the point of view of Saul, he believes that this is Samuel. And remember, Saul came to ask for advice from Samuel. And so, so when the Bible says there, and Samuel said, it is because from Saul's point of view, he's perceived that this is Samuel. So the identity of the word Samuel being given to this spirit is given because of Saul's perspective. The Bible tells us in verse 14 that Saul perceived that it was Samuel. Because when the witch is asked to describe who it is that she sees, what does she say in verse 13? I saw gods ascending out of the earth. So this is just a literally device, just showing us from Paul's perspective, it is Samuel. But the question is, remember, we said you read precept upon, line upon. So you just don't take this verse and say, okay, now we believe the dead can rise and start speaking, right? We have to find out if we think Samuel is speaking here and we have doubt, then we have to confirm with the Bible, can the dead really speak to us? Which is why we have other verses across the Bible to confirm that. Let's now dwell on the subject of others who we find in the Bible that people speak about. Someone had spoken about the topic of Lazarus and the rich man, right? In that story, where did Lazarus go?
Abraham's bosom.
Abraham's bosom. So does it make sense for us to find out where Abraham is? Because it's important to find out if Abraham has a bosom that people can go to, or that's another precept upon precept, line upon line. We need to find out whether was that story a parable or is it real. So we need to find out from the Bible, why is Abraham? Can someone read for us the book of Genesis, chapter 25, verses 8 and 9?
Genesis 25.
Yes.
verses 8, it says, Abraham breathed his last and died in a good old age, an old man and full of years, and he was gathered to his people. Isaac and Ishmael, his sons, buried him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar, the Hittite,
Thank you.
east
Thank you.
of Mamre.
Let's stop there. We are really focusing on Abraham. We find out that Abraham died and was buried by his sons, right?
Yeah.
So as of now, we know that Abraham is
Dead. Buried.
okay. Now let's find out: is Abraham afterwards? Did he go somewhere that he has a bosom that we can go to? Someone go to Hebrews 11. Hebrews 11, and let's go to chapter 8. Sorry, Hebrews 11, verse 8.
Hebrews 11, verse 8, it says, By faith Abraham obeyed when he was called to go out to a place that he was to receive as an inheritance. And he went out, not knowing where he was going.
Thank you. Thank you. That establishes that Abraham is one of the people we are talking about in the chapter of Hebrews 11, right? Now let's go and look at the fate of these people mentioned. We have Sarah, we have Noah, we have Enoch, we have others. Let's go to